everybody. Welcome back to Red Mug Music, and I'm Brian. And what I'm going to be doing today is something very exciting, well, at least exciting to me. I'm going to be ranking Duran Duran's 14 studio albums. Duran Duran has been one of my favorite bands of all time. I've been listening to them since as long as I can remember. I remember hearing like their first two albums when I was really young, but it was about the time the third album, or pretty much the fourth, which was Arena, a live album, the one with Wild Boys, when it were released. That's when I really took notice, and I got that album, and after that I was hooked. I had to go back and get the first three albums. Well, I didn't. My dad did, but he got those albums for me, and I've been a fan ever since. So today, let's review all 14 albums, and I'll tell you how I rank them. And if you're trying to get into the Duran Duran scene, maybe this will help you out and know exactly where to start. So let's get started. After a drink. Coming in at 14 is, well, I hate to use this joke, and I'm sure it's been used many times, but this album is literally pop trash. Sorry. But Pop Trash is the worst album I think Duran Duran has ever done. My reason that it's Pop Trash, it's so cleverly named. I guess they knew that it was going to be bad, and I'm sorry, I love Duran Duran, but I just could not listen to this album. I remember when it came out, they had releases like Someone Else Not Me and Playing with Uranium, and I think in Japan they released Last Day on Earth. But they're kind of listenable, but for the most part, I don't think they really did much on the charts. And I paid almost no mind. The album came out in 2000. And I don't think I even bought the album. Maybe I did, I think I bought it used. But if you listen to the entire album, there's no listenable songs on there. Someone Else Not Me's okay. Playing with Uranium, even though it's a really strange title, it's just okay. But besides those two, I can't listen to the album. I just can't. So since I can't listen to the songs on the album, it's going to come in at number 14 as the worst Duran Duran album there is. So if you're starting to listen to Duran Duran today, let's skip that one. Okay, coming in at 13 is... It was really hard for me to not put this album as number 14 as the worst album, because I will not listen to this album at all, and that is Red Carpet Massacre. That one came out in 2007. I can't stress how much I hate this album, and here's why. Well, one word: Timbaland. Timbaland is why. This is a Timbaland album featuring Simon Le Bon. Duran Duran to me doesn't, maybe once or twice, but doesn't really appear on this album. It doesn't sound like Duran Duran. And the reason why I put it number 13 and not 14 is because I can hear that there are some good songs on here, and I feel like if they would have done it Duran Duran style, if they wouldn't have taken on Timbaland to produce the record, I think they would have had some really good tracks, but they didn't. So every time I listen to this album, I'm listening to Timbaland, and I'm apparently not a Timbaland fan. Now, he produced another album by Chris Cornell called Scream, which I actually really like. But the problem is, once I heard that album, and then I go and I listen to this album, it's like, I've already heard this. I mean, it's Duran Duran, but I already heard it with Scream. I really can't listen to this all over again. So anytime Timbaland produces an album for another band, it's basically a Timbaland album featuring the lead singer of the other band. So, but just because some tracks are listenable, even though they were ruined by Timbaland, I'll put it at number 13 and not 14. Okay, coming in at number 12 is an album that came out in 1995, and I actually thought it was pretty good. I liked it. It had some really good tracks on there that I enjoyed. But Thank You, basically a tribute album to Duran Duran's bands that influenced them and you know their personal likes, which I can appreciate that, and I'm glad that they did it. I think more bands need to do that. It was just a great thing to do. But when you go and listen to the album, I find myself, besides Perfect Day, White Lines, Lay Lady Lay, and there's Crystal Ship. Besides those albums, I really don't care for much of the rest. And of course, since I'm ranking albums, and to me, an album is good and it's listenable from beginning to end. And I'm not talking about just particular tracks that are on the album. I'm actually talking about the album. So I found that there were not many really good songs on here. There are good songs on here, but not great. Or the ones that I don't like them at all. What I wish is they would have taken Perfect Day and Lay Lady Lay and Crystal Ship and just kind of scattered them within the next several albums that they did. That would have been great. Just sprinkle them in. It would have just enhanced those albums. But again, I like the concept of what they did. I like the fact that they pay tribute to these bands that helped them out and influenced them. And I appreciate those bands because, again, Duran Duran is one of my favorite bands of all time. But as an album, it's not my favorite. It's not very good. It's got a few really good songs, but for the most part, not really. So that's why I put them at number 12. Coming in at number 11 is an album that's kind of special to me because it dates back to my college years. It actually came out in 1990, right before I graduated high school, but this was the Duran Duran I was listening to for the next couple of years. So it went through my college years. And this album is not that good though, but it has my favorite, maybe my favorite song that Duran Duran ever did, which is Serious, and it's from the album Liberty. Liberty is not a good album. They released Violence of Summer and Liberty, and Serious, but that's pretty much it. There's not much on this album that's listenable. I do because it's kind of nostalgic for me, but I also recognize it's just really kind of trash. But so I don't really listen to it that much. But and the odd thing about it, if you've ever noticed, the very first measure I think on Violence of Summer, on that piano there's a bad chord being struck. So I wonder what that's about. And then I think they re-released it later on, maybe I don't know if it was on a Greatest Hits album or maybe they remastered it. I don't remember, and it's gone. So I'm like, okay, they didn't mean to do that because it stuck out. Every time I listen to that song, I listen to that terrible note. But for the most part, Liberty was kind of bad, but it did have some good songs like Violence of Summer and Serious. But besides those two, it was just not that good, and I don't really listen to it that much. But I do find it better than like Thank You and Red Carpet Massacre and Pop Trash. So that's why I put it at number 11. All right, 8, 9, and 10 were pretty much all interchangeable. Almost 7, 8, 9, and 10 were interchangeable, but I had 8, 9, and 10 in different combinations and different orders, and I finally just stuck with one. So coming in at number 10 is going to be an album that I'm not very familiar with, but I do remember when it came out, and I was really excited because it was the first time the whole band were going to be back together again. It's going to be Roger Taylor, Andy Taylor, John Taylor, and then Nick Rhodes and Simon Le Bon. So it was it was exciting to see it come back. I believe at the time when I heard it, when it first came out, I wasn't a big fan of it, but now I go back and listen to it, and it's actually a really good album. A lot of very good tracks on there, but I don't ever remember it. So it kind of makes me go, I don't know if I should rank that too high because I never can remember it. And I really don't like Reach Up for the Sunrise. It's okay. It's just a little... It's just kind of like an anthem song, and everybody, I don't know, I'm just not a fan of that one. But they released that one, What Happens Tomorrow, which is a great track and nice. Again, it's a good album. It's kind of special because they all came back together again to record the album together. But I forget about it. But listen to it and tell me what you think. If you actually like it, if you don't like it, I'm kind of curious on what everybody thinks, because on any kind of streaming media like Apple Music or Spotify or Amazon Music, this particular album is not available. Don't know why. I guess it's contractual. I'm not sure. But so I don't really get to hear it. But I do have it on CD, and it's actually in my car. But I just never listened to it. But anyway, but I listened to it the other day, and I really liked it. And I thought to myself, I need to listen to it a whole lot more. So, but anyway, I slotted it in at number 10, and I hope that was a good choice. Okay, now coming in at number 9 is their newest album, Paper Gods. Paper Gods is one of those albums that I think that they sequenced incorrectly. I don't like it starting out with Paper Gods. It drags into the beginning, and I don't think that was a really good way to start that album. Even though that's a really good track, it just didn't really, I don't think it did it any justice. I probably would have started that album off with like Pressure Off, something a little bit more, or a whole lot more upbeat. Because Duran Duran, I think, is known more for upbeat type songs. But, they did what they did. But I've actually come up with a resequenced album. I basically rebuilt it, took a couple of songs out that I thought were weak, and eventually I'll post that on here. The order that I think that album should have come in, and maybe it would have done better, which it did okay. And it's a really good album, but... I think it could have been better just based on how they ordered the songs on the album. But Pressure Off, Last Night in the City, a few others, it's just really good tracks. One of my favorite songs by Duran Duran is actually on this album, and it's What Are the Chances? That song is absolutely beautiful. I listen to it anytime I get a chance. It's a great, great, great song. Danceophobia. It's a terrible song. Hate it. Actually, when I do my resequenced album, that one doesn't even make it. Mainly all the other songs are really good. I think they did a really good job with this album, and I enjoy listening to it. I think the album cover is a little crappy, but, who am I to say? Well, anyway, so that's why Paper Gods came in at number 9. All right, the next album that I put in there at, where are we at, number 8, is Medazzoland. Now, this one is a really good album. Pretty much from beginning to end, it's all listenable stuff. It's got songs like Out of My Mind and Electric Barbarella. I don't think it's amazing, but I think it's really good. And they did a really good job of just writing good, solid songs for this. This one came out in 1997, and actually, this one's in my car also. So I listen to this quite a bit. Now, I don't know if anyone knows this, probably so, but Medazzoland, the very first song on the album, is actually voiced by Nick Rhodes, and I think maybe that's the only song he's ever done lead voice or vocal. He's not singing, he's talking. But that's Nick Rhodes, so that's pretty cool. It's a throwaway song, but it's also a really cool thing that he did that, so I do like it. But it's got a lot of slower ballads on this album, just nice harmonies, solid album. So that's why Medazzoland came in at number 8. Now, number 7, now we're on the first half, the top half, 1 through 7. I just got done with 8 through 14, which was number 14, Pop Trash. Number 13, Red Carpet Massacre. Number 12 was Thank You. Number 11, Liberty. Number 10, Astronaut. Number 9, Paper Gods. And number 8, Medazzoland. Now, number 7 was really hard for me to place because I don't think it's that great of an album, even though it produced some of their biggest tracks of all time. And that's the Duran Duran album, or the Wedding album. So the album has like 13 tracks, and you have Come Undone and Ordinary World that carry the album. But if you take those two songs off of the album, it's not so good. I don't think it would be considered, it'd probably be like number 11 or 12 on the list. But Come Undone and Ordinary World are so strong. I had to put it at number 7. I couldn't see putting it behind Medazzoland or Paper Gods. It's just such a great album, I think, thought of by most people, that I just had to put it there. But Too Much Information, that's a really good track. Ordinary World, wonderful. Love Voodoo, don't care. Drowning Man, don't care. Shotgun, don't care. Come Undone, that's great. Breath After Breath is a really good song. That's another good, solid track. And then you have UMF. It's okay. Femme Fatale, it's really good. That's a Lou Reed song, actually, the second one that I know that they do. Perfect Day was the other one on the Thank You album, and they did a really good job with that one. None of the Above is a really good track, and then you have Shelter, To Whom It May Concern, Sin of the City. I just think these are under par type songs, but Ordinary World, Come Undone, Too Much Information, Breath After Breath, great stuff. So I put it in at number 7 just because of that. Now, at number 6, I thought ranking it this high would be kind of, it would be abnormal for me to rank it this high. I've never really heard a lot of people talk about this album, but I like it. It's extremely solid. It's really good from beginning to end. Actually, the release songs are the ones I probably don't like the most, just because they're too dancey for me. But Big Thing, well, except for the title track, Big Thing, it's too slow. The tempo was way too slow. I think they should have just played it faster. If they would have played it faster, it would have been solid. It would have been a fantastic song, but they didn't. So I usually skip over Big Thing just because it's too slow. I just don't have the patience to listen to it, even though it's a great song. I bet you if I do it live, which I think I've heard it live by them, that it would have to be faster, just because I don't think anybody wants to deal with a slow Big Thing track. It's too slow. But I Don't Want Your Love, even though I liked it at the time, I don't think it really... it doesn't. I don't continue to like it. It's just a little too dancey, and All She Want Is. It's again a little too dancey. Very heavy drum. But besides that, I mean, you have songs like Too Late Marlene, beautiful. Do You Believe in Shame, beautiful. Palomino, my goodness. I mean, listen to these tracks. If you're ever in a mood, you just want to relax and close your eyes and maybe just go to a different place completely. Maybe this album to listen to, but just pick out those tracks. It's so good. The Edge of America, Lakeshore Driving. This is a really good, solid album. If you've not heard it, listen to it. It's one of their best. So I put Big Thing at number 6 just because it's listenable all the way through, except for Big Thing. And it just has a really good vibe, a great sound, and it's an enjoyable album, so you should listen to it. Now, number 5. This is one of the older ones. Actually, this one came out in 1983, and 84 and 85 were my favorite years, and they were still releasing songs off of this album in 84. But this is, actually I have the record Seven and the Rag Tiger. Actually, is that pronounced ragged or ragged? I've never known. But Seven and the Rag Tiger has tracks like The Reflex, New Moon on Monday, Union of the Snake, and The Seventh Stranger, which is actually on the Arena album. Very good album. Very, very good album. This was, like I said, this is one of the originals that I had back in the day that I listened to all the time. I probably listened to this album 1,000 times, and I'm not even kidding. Not even kidding. This is just one of the best. But just good all the way through. There's not a bad song on it. You should definitely, if you haven't heard it, which I don't know how you've not heard this, especially The Reflex, New Moon on Monday, maybe you haven't. The Seventh Stranger, Union of the Snake, please take the time and listen to this album. Very good. Coming in at number 4 is one of their newer albums. It actually came out in 2010, so it's 10 years old now, but to me it's a newer album because I'm used to the ones from 1983, 84. All You Need Is Now. All You Need Is Now is fantastic from beginning to end again. And knowing that Duran Duran can create some very unlistenable stuff, this one's a really good one because everything on it is great. Again, it came out in 2010. All You Need Is Now, Blame the Machines, Leave a Light On. It's got Girl Panic, Before the Rain. It's just really good. You should check it out. Actually, when I first heard it, I didn't like it. And I probably didn't like it for a couple years after that because I just never did like the new Duran Duran over the old Duran Duran. But then I read an article on how they compared it to Rio. And I'm like, what? How can you compare that to Rio? So I listened to it again, with open-minded and just gave it a chance, and it actually became one of my favorites. So I actually put it at number 4 because of that. So that's pretty high for a newer album. But if you want to, this one may be a good one if you're younger and you want to listen to Duran Duran. This All You Need Is Now is probably the best one to start with because it's got more of a modern sound, and you may really like it. So check that one out. But I put it at number 4. Okay, number 3. The third best album by Duran Duran is Duran Duran. Their very first album. And actually, of course, you probably know this, but I have that one as well. And this one, I'm going to be honest, I kind of hated it the first couple of times, or maybe first couple of years that I listened to this, because I don't feel like I had the ear to understand songs like Waiting for the Night Boat or Sounds of Thunder or Friends of Mine Tell You, and basically everything on the second side. I just never listened to it. So I would always listen to the first side. Is There Something I Should Know? Careless Memories, which is on the live album. Planet Earth, Girls on Film. I mean, this solid first side. Second side I thought was terrible. But I got a little bit older and I started noticing those songs are amazing. And I listen to this album all the time. Sometimes this is the first one I'll reach for if I'm in the mood for Duran Duran. But great one. But this is their first one. I think it came out in 1981. And this may be a reissue. Let me look here. And yeah, 1983, because they issued the first record in England, and then it became famous, and then we learned about them, and they came over here and they did it again, and they re-released it, and they put Is There Something I Should Know on the album at that point, and that's what I have. So the original doesn't have that song on there, so I'm glad it does. But number 3, Duran Duran. Okay, when I tell you the number 2 album, it's going to give away, if you're paying attention, it's going to give away the number 1 album. But I'll just talk about number 2 first, and then we'll talk about number 1. The number 2, or the ranked number 2 best album, best Duran Duran album, to me is Notorious. Now, personally, I'm going to say that Notorious is my favorite album. Notorious came out in 1986, and like I said, between 84, 85, 86, it was like the end of Seven, and Arena was released, and they did their side projects, which I'll talk about in a minute, and Notorious. And it was a really good span for me. That's when I really decided I freaking love this band, and I've not stopped listening to them ever since. But Notorious, again, wonderful from beginning to end. Again, personally, Notorious is my favorite album, but there's no way that I can rank it in front of Rio. Number one, best album of all time for Duran Duran is Rio. Rio, check it out. Rio, Hungry Like the Wolf, New Religion, Save a Prayer, The Chauffeur. It's great. It actually only has 9 songs on it. This album came out in 1982. This was their second album. And they actually released My Own Way, which I don't think so many people are familiar with. Hungry Like the Wolf, of course, Save a Prayer, and Rio. I don't know why they released Rio fourth. You would think that would be the first one, but maybe that was strategic. But this is absolutely the best album that Duran Duran's ever done from beginning to end. I just listened to it today. Actually, I listened to the record today. So this is what I think their number one album of all time is. So if you're just starting, you're just learning about Duran Duran, like I said, maybe All You Need Is Now is the best way, maybe the best way to start listening to them. But Rio, the best stuff out there. But anyway, number one, Rio. Number 2, Notorious. Number 3, Duran Duran. Number 4, All You Need Is Now. Number 5, 7 and the Rag Tiger. 6, Big Thing. 7, The Wedding Album, or Duran Duran. 8, Medazzoland. 9, Paper Gods. 10, Astronaut. 11, Liberty. 12, Thank You. 13, Red Carpet Massacre. And 14, Pop Trash. So that's my list. That's the 14 studio albums that Duran Duran has done, ranked 14 through 1. But well, anyway, that's it. That's all I've got. That's my top 14 ranked. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you want to comment below, let me know what you think. You know, how far off do you think I was? What you think your top 3 were? Maybe you can let me know. And then I'd like to know what everyone's top 3 favorites and then your least favorite. So if you can list 4 albums, that would be really great. So, or if you decided that I'm going to start watching or listening to Duran Duran, maybe after you do that, and come back over and tell me what you think. All right, well, that's it for this week. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I appreciate you coming over and hanging out with me today. And until next time.